The vote was 16-4. Audrey Blackwell, founder and CEO of Blackwell Industries, was placed on immediate medical leave. Richard Warren would serve as interim CEO. She had until Christmas Eve, exactly 3 years after her daughters died, to clear out her office and transition her responsibilities. "It's temporary," Richard assured her after the meeting, his voice almost kind. "Once the baby is born and you've proven you can handle both motherhood and leadership, we'll revisit." But Audrey had built companies before. She knew corporate speak for "you're done." They were replacing her, not temporarily, permanently, because she'd committed the unforgivable sin of being a woman who'd lost children and shown grief instead of strength. She walked out of that conference room, her conference room, in her company that she'd built from nothing, and kept walking. Past her office, past her assistant, out of the building entirely. It was Christmas Eve. Again. 3 years to the day since she delivered Sophia and Isabella, her perfect twin daughters, who'd never taken a single breath. 3 years since her husband had looked at her in the hospital and said, "I can't do this. I can't watch you destroy yourself with grief." 3 years since everyone she trusted had slowly, carefully backed away from her pain. And now they were taking her company. The only thing she had left. Audrey stood on the street, December snow beginning to fall, and realized she had nowhere to go. No family to call. They'd stopped reaching out after she pushed them away. No friends. She'd lost them all to work. No husband. He'd remarried 6 months ago, was expecting a healthy baby with his new wife, had moved on while Audrey was still trapped in that hospital room holding daughters who would never cry. She had money, success, an empire, and she was completely, utterly alone.
Audrey walked for hours through the snow, not caring where she went, just needing to move. By the time she looked up, she was in a part of the city she didn't recognize. Lower income, older buildings, a neighborhood that had seen better days. And in front of her, a community center with a hand-painted sign. Christmas Eve dinner, everyone welcome. She almost kept walking, but something about that sign, everyone welcome, made her stop. When was the last time she'd been welcomed anywhere? When was the last time everyone had included her? Inside, the community center was warm and crowded. Families at long tables, volunteers serving food, children running between adults. The noise was overwhelming after hours of silent walking. And the smell? Ham, potatoes, the scent of people and life and celebration made Audrey's stomach turn. This was a mistake. She didn't belong here. These were people who needed help, not billionaire CEOs having public breakdowns. She turned to leave. "Excuse me, are you okay?" A man's voice, gentle but concerned. Audrey turned. He was younger than her, maybe 35 to her 41, with kind eyes and tired lines around them. He wore a yellow jacket and held the hand of a boy, maybe 8, who stared up at her with open curiosity. "I'm fine," Audrey said automatically. "I was just leaving." "You're soaking wet," the man observed. "And you look—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You look like someone who needs to sit down. Please, stay. Have dinner. No questions asked." "I don't need charity," Audrey said, more harshly than intended. "It's not charity," the man said. "It's Christmas Eve. Everyone's welcome. That's what the sign says, right?" He smiled, and something about it, the genuine warmth, the lack of judgment, made Audrey's walls crack slightly. When was the last time someone had smiled at her without calculating what they could get in return? "Come on," the boy said, tugging on the man's hand. "Dad, the girls are crying. They need you."
"I'll be right there, Camden," the man said. He looked at Audrey. "My name is Owen Sterling. That's my son, Camden. And somewhere in this chaos are my twin daughters. They're 2, and they're probably destroying something important. But first, will you stay? Just for dinner." Twin daughters. The words landed like a punch. Audrey's hand went instinctively to her stomach, where a new baby was growing. A baby she was terrified to love, because loving children meant they could be taken away. Audrey started, then stopped. Because across the room she could see them, two identical toddlers with curly red hair wearing matching red dresses, and they were indeed destroying something, specifically a carefully arranged nativity scene. And they were laughing, these perfect little girls with their father's kind eyes, alive and loud and utterly real. Everything Sophia and Isabella would never be. Audrey felt tears threatening and tried to turn away, but Owen's hand was on her shoulder, gentle but steady. Hey, whatever you're running from, it'll still be there tomorrow. For tonight, just eat. Sit. Be here. That's enough. I lost my twin daughters, Audrey heard herself say. 3 years ago, today, on Christmas Eve. They died, both of them. And everyone left me. My husband, my company, everyone. And now I'm pregnant again. And they took my company away because they think I can't handle being a mother and a CEO, and they're probably right. Because I couldn't save Sophia and Isabella. I couldn't keep them alive. So why would I be able to do anything right now? The words poured out, years of grief and rage and terror she'd been holding back, and Owen Sterling, this stranger, just listened. Didn't tell her it would be okay, didn't offer empty platitudes, just stood there, solid and present, while she fell apart in a community center on Christmas Eve. When she finally stopped, gasping and shaking, Owen said quietly, "I'm so sorry. For your daughters, for your loss. For everyone who left when you needed them most." "You don't even know me," Audrey whispered. "I know loss," Owen said. "My wife died 2 years ago, cancer. I was left alone with a 6-year-old and 2-month-old twins. I know what it's like when people disappear because your grief makes them uncomfortable. I know what it's like to be told you're not capable of handling your responsibilities. So yeah, I don't know you, but I know that pain. And I know nobody should be alone on Christmas Eve."
Owen introduced her to his children with the casual ease of single parents who'd learned to manage chaos. "This is Camden. He's 8. And these little troublemakers are Harper and Scarlett. Say hi to Miss Audrey," she supplied. "Just Audrey." "Audrey," Camden repeated carefully. "Are you sad? You look sad." "Camden," Owen said gently, "we talked about this." "It's okay," Audrey said. She knelt down to Camden's level. "I am sad. Today is a hard day for me, but being here helps. Thank you for noticing." Camden studied her with the brutal assessment of 8-year-olds. "Dad gets sad too sometimes, on the anniversary of when Mom died. He thinks we don't notice, but we do. Scarlett and Harper don't remember Mom, but I do. And I remember Dad being really sad for a long time." "But he's not sad now?" Audrey asked. "Not as much," Camden said. "He says sadness doesn't go away, but it gets easier to carry. Like how my backpack was really heavy at the start of school, but now my shoulders are stronger, so it doesn't hurt as much." Audrey felt tears threatening again. This 8-year-old understood grief better than her entire board of directors. The twins, Harper and Scarlett, toddled over, curious about the crying stranger. They were identical except for small details. Harper had a tiny freckle on her left cheek. Scarlett's red curls were slightly tighter. They wore matching red velvet dresses that were already stained with food, their small faces sticky with whatever they'd been eating. And they were perfect, alive, real. Everything Audrey's daughters would never be. Harper reached up, touched Audrey's face with sticky fingers. "Sad," she declared. "Very sad," Scarlett agreed, patting Audrey's hand with the solemn concern of toddlers. And then, without warning or invitation, both twins climbed into Audrey's lap, just settled there, small and warm and completely trusting. Harper stuck her thumb in her mouth. Scarlett laid her head against Audrey's chest, right over her heart. Audrey froze. She hadn't held children since Sophia and Isabella, hadn't let herself get close to babies because the pain was too much. But these twins,
These living, breathing, laughing 2-year-olds were in her lap, and they were warm, and they smelled like baby shampoo and graham crackers, and Audrey felt something in her chest crack open. "I'm sorry," Owen said, moving to retrieve his daughters. "They don't understand personal space yet." "Don't," Audrey said quickly. "Please, let them stay. Just for a minute." Owen stopped, studied her face, then nodded. "Okay, but if they get too heavy, just dump them on the floor. They're used to it." Camden giggled. "Dad says we're like sacks of potatoes." "Very cute sacks of potatoes," Owen corrected. They sat like that, Audrey on the floor with 2 toddlers in her lap, Owen and Camden beside them, volunteers serving Christmas dinner around them. And slowly, carefully, Audrey let herself feel it. The weight of children in her arms, the trust they offered without knowing her, the simple, uncomplicated presence of small humans who didn't care that she was a failure or a CEO or a grieving mother. They just wanted to sit with someone sad and make it better through proximity. "Why did you come here tonight?" Audrey asked Owen eventually. "You don't look like you need a free dinner." "I don't," Owen admitted. "I'm a nurse, make decent money, could afford to cook at home. But Camden asked if we could come. He said Christmas should be about helping people, not just getting presents. And he's right. So we volunteer here every year, serve food, help clean up, let the girls charm people into donations. It's good for them to see giving instead of just receiving. And it's good for you?" Audrey asked. Owen was quiet for a moment. "It helps. Being around other people on hard days, remembering that everyone's fighting battles you can't see. That you're not alone in your pain, even when it feels like you are. Everyone left me," Audrey said quietly. "After I lost Sophia and Isabella, my husband said he couldn't watch me grieve anymore. My company, today, they voted me out. Temporary medical leave, they called it. But it's not temporary. They're replacing me because they think I'm too broken to lead." "Are you?" Owen asked, not unkindly. "Too broken?" "I don't know," Audrey admitted. "I thought I'd moved past it, built my walls high enough. But then I got pregnant again, and all the grief came back. All the terror that this baby will die too. And maybe they're right. Maybe I can't handle both. Maybe I have to choose between being a mother and being a CEO. Or maybe," Owen suggested, "you're surrounded by people who've never experienced real loss, who don't understand that grief doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. That carrying pain while building a life is the bravest thing anyone can do." Scarlett shifted in Audrey's lap, made a small noise. Harper's thumb popped out of her mouth long enough to say, "Sad lady, stay." "For dinner, yes, but then we need to go home." "No," Scarlett insisted with toddler certainty. "Sad lady, stay. Needs us." And somehow, that small voice, speaking absolute truth, broke something open in Audrey. She did need them. Needed this family she'd met an hour ago more than she'd needed the company she had built or the people who had just voted her out, because they were offering what everyone else had taken away: acceptance, presence, the simple gift of not being alone. "Come home with us," Owen said, as the dinner ended and volunteers began cleaning up. "Just for tonight. You shouldn't be alone on Christmas Eve." "I can't impose," Audrey protested weakly. "You're not imposing." "Camden, do we have room for one more person at Christmas?" "Yes!" Camden said immediately. "We have tons of room, and Harper and Scarlett like her, and she needs us because she's sad and alone, and today is the day her babies died." "Camden," Owen said carefully, "that's private information." "But it's true," Camden said. "And Dad, you always say the truth matters. She told us, so now we know, and we should help." Audrey looked at this 8-year-old who understood more about compassion than most adults. "Your son is remarkably kind." He had a good teacher, his mother. She believed in helping people, even when, especially when, it was inconvenient. "I'm trying to pass that on. So please, come home with us. Spend Christmas with people who understand loss, who won't judge you for grieving, who won't leave. The apartment was small, clearly not designed for a single father and 3 children. Toys everywhere, dishes in the sink, the comfortable chaos of people actually living life instead of just existing through it. So different from Audrey's sterile penthouse, where everything was expensive and nothing was warm. The twins immediately dragged Audrey to their room to show her their toys. Harper presented a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. Scarlett offered a plastic tea set. And together, with the solemn ceremony of 2-year-olds, they insisted Audrey sit on the floor and play tea party. Camden joined them, carefully pouring imaginary tea while explaining the rules. Harper likes her tea with 3 sugars. Scarlett likes 5. I don't know why. They're weird. We're not weird, Harper said indignantly. You're weird. Everyone's weird, Scarlett declared, then giggled at her own wisdom.
Audrey found herself laughing, actually laughing, for the first time in 3 years. These children, who should have been overwhelming to a woman 16 weeks pregnant and grieving her own lost daughters, were somehow exactly what she needed. Their chaos was healing. Their demands were distracting. Their unconditional acceptance was a gift she'd forgotten existed. Owen appeared in the doorway. "All right, monsters. It's bedtime. Say goodnight to Audrey." "No!" both twins protested in unison. "Yes," Owen said firmly but gently. "Audrey will still be here in the morning, but right now you need sleep. Come on. Teeth brushed, pajamas on, Christmas Eve story time." "Will you read the story?" Harper asked Audrey. "Please?" And somehow, Audrey found herself in a small bedroom with 2 toddler beds and 1 8-year-old in sleeping bags on the floor, reading The Night Before Christmas, while 3 children listened with rapt attention. Her voice shook on certain lines. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, because Sophia and Isabella had never been nestled anywhere, had never heard stories or had Christmas Eve, or grown past 32 weeks. But Harper and Scarlett and Camden were here, alive, real, proof that life continued even after devastating loss, that children could be raised by single parents doing their best, that families could be built from grief and still find joy. After the children were asleep, Audrey and Owen sat in the living room with coffee. The apartment was quiet, Christmas lights twinkling on a slightly crooked tree, presents wrapped in mismatched paper underneath. "Thank you for tonight, for inviting me, for—" her voice broke. "For letting me hold your daughters. I haven't held babies since mine died. I've avoided children entirely, but Harper and Scarlett just climbed into my lap and trusted me, and it was—" She couldn't finish. "Healing?" Owen suggested quietly. "Terrifying. I'm 16 weeks pregnant. I wake up every night convinced this baby will die too, that I'll lose another child. And your daughters, they reminded me that babies can survive, that toddlers exist, that life continues. But it also reminded me of everything I lost, everything Sophia and Isabella will never be. Do you want to talk about them, your daughters?"
And Audrey realized she did. For 3 years, no one had asked about Sophia and Isabella. People had said, "I'm sorry for your loss," and then changed the subject as quickly as possible, uncomfortable with her grief. But Owen just sat there, patient and present, while she talked about her pregnancy, the complications, the emergency delivery at 32 weeks, the terrible silence in the delivery room when neither baby cried. She told him about holding Sophia and Isabella, their tiny, perfect bodies, their delicate features, the way they looked like they were sleeping except they'd never wake up. About her husband, who'd looked at those dead babies and seen only failure, who'd blamed Audrey for working too hard, for being too stressed, for not being enough to keep their daughters alive. "He said it was my fault," Audrey whispered, "that I'd chosen career over family, that if I'd been less focused on the company and more focused on being pregnant, maybe they would have survived. And part of me believes him. Part of me thinks he's right." "He's not," Owen said firmly. "Medical complications aren't moral failures. Sometimes babies die, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the worst possible thing that can happen. And people who've never experienced it don't understand that there's no making sense of it, no reason, no one to blame. It just is. Your wife, cancer? Ovarian, diagnosed when the twins were 2 months old, gone 6 months later. And people kept saying things like, everything happens for a reason, or at least she got to meet the twins, as if any reason could justify leaving me alone with a 6-year-old and 2 infants, as if at least could ever apply to death. "I'm sorry," Audrey said. "Me too. For both of us. For Sophia and Isabella and my wife Rachel, for Camden losing his mother and your company betraying you, for all of it." They sat in silence, two people who'd experienced devastating loss, finding comfort in shared understanding. And Audrey realized this was what she'd been missing for 3 years. Someone who didn't minimize her pain, or tell her to move on, or imply that grief had an expiration date. Someone who just sat with it.
Audrey woke up on Owen's couch to the sound of children laughing. For a moment, she was confused. This wasn't her penthouse, wasn't her life. Then she remembered. Christmas Eve, the board vote, the community center. Owen and his 3 children who'd given her what everyone else had taken away. "She's awake," Camden announced. "Can we open presents now, Dad?" "After breakfast," Owen called from the kitchen, "same as every year." "But we have a guest," Camden protested. "That changes the rules." "Nice try," Owen said, appearing with coffee for Audrey. "Morning. How'd you sleep?" "Better than I have in 3 years," Audrey admitted. It was true. She'd expected nightmares, anxiety, the usual Christmas Eve trauma response. Instead, she'd slept deeply, dreamlessly, her body finally accepting that she was safe. The twins appeared, climbing onto the couch beside Audrey with the assumption that she belonged there. Harper presented a slightly squashed piece of toast. "For you, from me." "And me," Scarlett added, offering an orange slice that had clearly been in her pocket. "Thank you," Audrey said, genuinely moved by these offerings. She ate the toast, cold and slightly soggy, and the orange, warm and slightly fuzzy, while 2 toddlers watched with satisfaction. Camden sat on the other side. "Are you still sad today?" "Yes," Audrey said honestly, "but less sad than yesterday. Being here helps." "Good," Camden declared, "because you should be here. You fit." After breakfast, chaotic, loud, with more food on the floor than in mouths, they opened presents. Audrey had nothing to give, felt awkward watching this family celebrate, but Owen waved away her protests. "Your presence is the gift," he said simply. "Now watch Harper and Scarlett destroy their packaging in exactly 3 seconds." The twins did indeed destroy packaging, shrieking with delight over simple toys. Stuffed animals, blocks, plastic tea sets. Camden got books and a science kit, received them with the seriousness of a child who understood that gifts were precious because money was limited. And Audrey watched the single father doing his best, saw his children thriving despite loss, recognized that family wasn't about perfection or wealth. It was about showing up, about loving imperfectly, about surviving loss and still choosing joy. "I have something for you," Owen said to Audrey. He handed her a small wrapped box. "You don't even know me," Audrey protested. Open it. Inside was a simple silver ornament engraved with two names, Sophia and Isabella, and a date, 3 years ago today. Audrey couldn't breathe. How did you—
You told me their names last night. I went out early this morning while you were sleeping. There's a shop that does custom engraving. I thought you should have something to honor them. Something that says their lives mattered, even though they were short. My wife believed that remembering the people we've lost keeps them alive in our hearts. I wanted to give that to you. Audrey clutched the ornament, tears streaming. For 3 years, everyone had avoided mentioning Sophia and Isabella, as if speaking their names would cause pain. But the pain was already there. The gift was remembering them out loud. "Thank you," she whispered. Thank you." "Hang it on our tree," Owen suggested. "They should be part of Christmas. They were real. They mattered. They deserve to be remembered." Audrey hung the ornament on the slightly crooked tree, these two names joining the chaotic collection of handmade decorations and dollar store finds. And somehow, Sophia and Isabella felt closer than they had in 3 years. Not gone, just different. Still part of a family, even if that family wasn't the one Audrey had planned.
On December 26th, Audrey's phone finally had service again. She turned it off Christmas Eve, couldn't handle the messages. 63 missed calls, hundreds of emails, and one message from her assistant. "Ms. Blackwell, the board is demanding you come in immediately to sign transition papers. They've set a deadline of December 27th. Please respond." Audrey stared at the message. She should go in, fight, prove she was capable, reclaim her company, show them that loss didn't make her weak. But another part of her, the part that had spent Christmas with Owen and his children, wondered, what was she fighting for? A company that had abandoned her? A career that had cost her everything? The approval of people who'd voted her out the moment she showed vulnerability? "Bad news?" Owen asked. He was making breakfast, pancakes for 5, because somehow Audrey had stayed another night, and neither of them had questioned it. "My company," Audrey said. "They want me to come in tomorrow. Sign papers, make the transition official, accept that I'm done." "Are you going to fight them?" Owen asked. "I don't know," Audrey admitted. 3 days ago, I would have said yes, would have gone in swinging, ready to prove them wrong. But now, she looked at Camden reading on the couch, at Harper and Scarlett playing with her new toys. Now I'm not sure what I'm fighting for. "What do you want?" Owen asked simply. "I want what you have," Audrey said. "This, family. People who don't leave when things get hard. Children who are alive and real and present. A life that matters for reasons beyond profit margins and quarterly earnings. You can have that, but you have to choose it. Nobody's going to hand you a ready-made family and say, 'Here, this is yours.' You have to build it, piece by piece, person by person, choice by choice." "I don't know how," Audrey admitted. "I built a company. I can negotiate contracts and manage employees and read financial statements, but I don't know how to build a life." "Start by deciding what matters," Owen suggested. "Not what should matter or what other people think should matter. What actually matters to you. Then build toward that." Audrey thought about this. What mattered? Not the company. Losing it hurt, but being here hurt less. Not the career. Success without connection was just expensive loneliness. What mattered was sitting on a couch with toddlers in her lap, reading bedtime stories, hanging ornaments with her daughters' names. What mattered was being part of something real.
Audrey walked into Blackwell Industries on December 27th wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer suit. Her hair was in a simple ponytail. She wore no makeup. She looked like a pregnant woman who'd spent Christmas playing with toddlers instead of networking with executives. The board stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "Ms. Blackwell," Richard Warren said carefully, "we're glad you came. We have papers for you to sign." "I'm not signing anything," Audrey interrupted. "I'm here to make an announcement." She looked at these people, her board, her executives, the leadership team she'd built, and she realized she didn't recognize any of them as friends. Colleagues, yes, business associates, but not people who'd sit with her grief, not people who'd offer what Owen Sterling had offered, acceptance without conditions. "I'm resigning," Audrey said, "permanently. Not because you voted me out, but because I don't want this anymore. I built Blackwell Industries to prove I was worth something, to show that losing my parents young didn't break me, to earn respect and success and all the markers of achievement. And I did it. I built an empire. And then I lost my daughters, and that empire didn't matter at all." "Audrey," Marcus tried to interrupt, but she held up her hand. "I'm 16 weeks pregnant. I'm having another baby. And I'm choosing to be a mother instead of a CEO. I'm choosing a life over a career. And I'm walking away from this company not because I'm weak or broken, but because I'm finally strong enough to know what actually matters." "You're making a mistake," Richard said. "You're letting emotion cloud your judgment." "No," Audrey said. "I'm letting emotion clarify my judgment. I spent 3 years being told that grief was weakness, that showing vulnerability was failure, that I needed to separate personal tragedy from professional responsibility. But grief isn't weakness. It's love with nowhere to go, and I'm done pretending it doesn't exist."
She told them about Christmas Eve, about losing everything and finding herself in a community center, about Owen Sterling and his 3 children who'd given her what the board had taken away: acceptance, presence, the simple gift of being valued as a human instead of an asset. "I'm starting a foundation," Audrey announced, the Sophia and Isabella Foundation, dedicated to supporting parents who've experienced infant loss, providing grief counseling, financial assistance for medical bills, community support groups, all the things I needed 3 years ago and couldn't find. I'm selling my shares in Blackwell Industries to fund it. And I'm hiring Owen Sterling as director because he understands loss in ways none of you ever will." "This is insane," Patricia said. "You're throwing away everything you've built." "I'm building something better," Audrey corrected. "Something that actually helps people instead of just making money. Something Sophia and Isabella would be proud of if they'd lived. Something that honors their memory by making sure other parents don't suffer alone." She signed the resignation papers right there, watched Richard Warren try to hide his satisfaction, and walked out of Blackwell Industries for the last time. And instead of grief, she felt relief, freedom. The weight of proving herself lifted. She had a baby to prepare for, a foundation to build, and a family she hadn't expected to find.
The Sophia and Isabella Foundation opened in June, funded by Audrey's sale of Blackwell Industries shares. Owen Sterling served as director, managing grief support groups and creating resources for families navigating infant loss. Camden volunteered after school, helping with mailings and website updates. And Harper and Scarlett were the unofficial mascots, charming donors and reminding everyone that life continued after loss. And Audrey gave birth to a healthy baby boy in May. Connor, she named him. After 36 hours of labor, complications that required emergency intervention, and terror that she'd lose another child, Connor emerged screaming and perfect and live. Owen was there for the birth, not as a romantic partner. They'd carefully maintained friendship, not wanting to rush into anything that might hurt his children, but as family, as the person who'd been there on Christmas Eve when everyone else had left,
as the man who'd given her back her humanity. "He's perfect," Owen said, holding Connor with the ease of someone who'd raised 3 children alone. "Look at him, so mad about being born. That's a good sign. Angry babies are healthy babies." Audrey watched him cradle her son, watched Camden peer curiously at the baby, watched Harper and Scarlett argue about who got to hold him first. And she realized this was family. Not the traditional kind, not the kind she'd planned, but family nonetheless. "Thank you," she told Owen, "for everything, for Christmas Eve, for not leaving, for showing me what actually matters." "You did the hard part," Owen said. "You chose to stay, to build something new, to honor Sophia and Isabella by helping other families. That took courage." "I'm terrified," Audrey admitted. "Every time Connor sleeps too long or cries wrong or seems different, I'm convinced he'll die too, that I'll lose him like I lost them." "That's normal," Owen said. "After loss, fear becomes constant. But fear doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're loving, and love is always worth the risk of pain."
They brought Connor home, not to Audrey's penthouse, but to a new house she'd bought, smaller than her previous place, but with a yard, room for children to play, space for a family that included Owen and Camden and Harper and Scarlett, even if the labels were still undefined. "We're a weird family," Camden observed at dinner that first night, Connor sleeping in a bassinet nearby while 5 people ate pizza. "Most families have a mom and a dad who are married. We have Dad and Audrey who are friends, and me and the twins and baby Connor who aren't related but kind of are." "Family doesn't have to be traditional to be real," Owen said. "Family is people who show up for each other, who don't leave when things get hard, who choose each other every day." "So we're family?" Harper asked. "Yeah," Scarlett confirmed. "We're family." And they were. This collection of people who'd found each other on Christmas Eve, who'd built connection from grief, who'd learned that love was bigger than biology or tradition or societal expectations. Audrey looked at Connor sleeping, at Owen helping the twins with their food, at Camden reading in the corner, and felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years: peace. Not happiness. She'd never be fully happy while Sophia and Isabella were gone. But peace. The knowledge that she was exactly where she needed to be.
The Sophia and Isabella Foundation's 3rd anniversary gala was held on Christmas Eve, deliberately, intentionally reclaiming the day that had once been Audrey's worst nightmare. 300 people attended, many of them parents who'd experienced infant loss, who'd found support and community through the foundation. Audrey stood on stage, Connor, now 3, holding her hand, and told her story. About losing Sophia and Isabella, about the board meeting that had taken her company, about walking into a community center and meeting a single father who'd changed everything. "Owen Sterling gave me what everyone else had taken away," Audrey said. "Not pity, not platitudes, just presence, just acceptance, just the simple gift of not being alone. And his children, Camden, Harper, and Scarlett, taught me that life continues after loss, that families can be built from grief, that love is worth the risk of pain." Owen sat in the front row with Camden, now 11, and the twins, now 5, who were trying very hard to sit still in their fancy dresses. He smiled at her, that same gentle smile from 3 years ago, and Audrey felt her heart swell. They'd gotten married 6 months ago. Small ceremony, just the 5 children and a handful of close friends. No fancy wedding, no corporate spectacle, just 2 people who'd survived devastating loss, promising to build a life together, to honor the people they'd lost by living fully, to create a family from broken pieces. This foundation exists because Sophia and Isabella lived, because their 32 weeks mattered,
Because every baby, no matter how short their life, deserves to be remembered. And every parent deserves support through grief. That's what we do here. We remember, we support, we show up. After the gala, after the speeches and the donations and the testimonials, Audrey and Owen took all 5 children to the community center where they'd met. The same place, the same Christmas Eve, 3 years later. "This is where you found me," Audrey told the children. 3 years ago tonight, I was alone and broken and convinced my life was over. And your dad," she looked at Owen, "your dad invited me to dinner, let me hold Harper and Scarlett, gave me a place to stay, reminded me that life was worth living."
"You were really sad," Camden remembered. "But you're not as sad now?" "No," Audrey agreed. "I'm not, because of you. All of you. You gave me a family when I thought I'd never have one again." Connor tugged on her hand. "Tell the story about my sisters, the ones in heaven." Audrey knelt down, gathered all 5 children close, Camden and Harper and Scarlett and Connor and Owen's arms around all of them. "Sophia and Isabella were born on Christmas Eve, 3 years before I met your dad. They were tiny and perfect, but they couldn't stay. They went to heaven before they could cry or grow or meet you, but they're still part of our family. They always will be." "Do they know about us?" Scarlett asked. "I think so," Audrey said. "I think they're happy we found each other, that we became a family." "A weird family," Camden added with a grin. "The best kind," Owen said, pulling them all closer. "The kind that chooses love over biology. The kind that shows up through hard times. The kind that remembers the people we've lost while celebrating the people we still have." They stood there, 7 people, 5 living children and 2 remembered always, while snow began to fall on Christmas Eve. The worst night of Audrey's life had become the night she'd found her family. The rejection that had destroyed her had led to acceptance that had saved her. She'd lost Sophia and Isabella, lost her company, her marriage, everything she'd thought defined her. And in losing everything, she'd found what actually mattered. People who stayed, children who loved without conditions, a partner who understood grief, a family built from loss but thriving in love. Owen had been right 3 years ago. Everyone who walked into that community center was welcome. Everyone belonged. Even billionaire CEOs having public breakdowns. Even grieving mothers convinced they'd never heal. Especially them. Because the sign said, "Everyone welcome." And on Christmas Eve, Audrey Blackwell had finally believed it.
If this story touched your heart, you've experienced the power of Becca's stories. We create narratives about being rejected on the worst night of your life and finding acceptance in the most unexpected place. About single fathers with twin daughters who offer what everyone else takes away. About choosing family over career and finding that choice was always the right one. Subscribe to Becca's Stories and join our community that believes in Christmas Eve miracles that look like community centers, in toddlers who climb into laps and heal broken hearts, in single parents who understand loss and offer presents, and in the courage to walk away from everything you've built to create something that actually matters. Every week, we bring you stories of infant loss and survival, of companies that betray and families that save, and of redemption that begins when you're rejected by everyone who was supposed to stay. Share this story with someone who's lost everything, who's grieving alone, who needs to know that family can be found in the most unexpected places. Comment below and tell us about a time when rejection led to acceptance, when loss led to love, when the worst night became the beginning of your best life. Because here at Becca's Stories, we believe that Christmas Eve can break you and save you in the same breath, that twin daughters in heaven watch over twin daughters on earth, that single dads with 3 kids are heroes in yellow jackets, and that everyone, especially the broken ones, deserves to be welcomed. Until next time, remember, the people who reject you aren't your family. The people who stay through your worst nights are. Choose them, build with them, love them. That's what heroes do.
The conference room was silent after Audrey Blackwell's announcement. 20 people stared at her, board members, executives, her own leadership team. The people she'd worked with for 7 years. The people who knew what had happened 3 years ago. "I'm pregnant," Audrey repeated, her voice steadier than she felt. 16 weeks. I wanted to tell you before it became obvious. I'll be taking maternity leave starting in April. More silence. Then Marcus Chen, her CFO, spoke carefully. "Audrey, given what happened last time, are you sure this is wise?" The words hit like a physical blow. Given what happened last time, as if losing her twin daughters at 32 weeks, delivering them stillborn on Christmas Eve 3 years ago, was a choice she'd made, a failure of wisdom rather than a devastating tragedy. "I'm sure," Audrey said, keeping her voice professional. "My doctors assure me this pregnancy is progressing normally. There's no reason to believe." "But there's risk," Patricia Foster interrupted, the head of operations. "Significant risk to you, to the baby, and frankly, to the company. We can't afford another—" She stopped, but the damage was done. Another what? Another CEO breaking down after losing children? Another Christmas ruined by grief? Another woman who couldn't separate personal tragedy from professional responsibility? "I'm not asking permission," Audrey said coldly. "I'm informing you of my plans as a courtesy. Blackwell Industries will continue to run smoothly. I've built contingency plans. Everything is under control." "Is it?" asked Richard Warren, the board chairman. "Because 3 years ago, you said everything was under control, and then you disappeared for 4 months, left the company in chaos, cost us millions in delayed projects and lost contracts. We can't go through that again." "I lost my children," Audrey said, her composure cracking. "My twin daughters, on Christmas Eve. And you're concerned about delayed projects?" "We're concerned about the company," Richard said, "about our fiduciary responsibility to shareholders, about whether you're capable of leading through another crisis if, God forbid, something goes wrong again." "Nothing will go wrong," Audrey insisted, even though she had no way of knowing that that wasn't true. Even though she woke up every night terrified that this baby would die too, that she'd lose another child and another piece of herself. "We think you should step down," Marcus said quietly, "temporarily, until after the baby is born and you've recovered. Let someone else handle the stress of CEO responsibilities, for your health, for the baby's health." "You want to replace me," Audrey said flatly. "We want to protect you," Patricia said, but it sounded like a lie. "And the company. This is for everyone's benefit."